good afternoon, everyone, and depending on where you are, good morning and good evening as well. My name is Navin Williams, and I lead Mobile Measure. We are a specialized mobile market research outfit, and we specialize in mobile market research in the Asia Pacific and other emerging markets. I've divided the presentation into 4 parts. The mobile diversity we have and where the next billion mobiles are coming from. The smart enough mobile phones that we require for mobile market research, and the diversity that we have even in a region like the Asia Pacific emerging and developed markets, and some examples of some new mobile market research techniques that are coming up. Firstly, how big is the developing world? If you look at this chart, we had around a decade ago the developing world twice as large as the developed world twice as large as the developing world, and fast forward to right now, you have 2 countries, India and China alone, larger than the entire developed world put together, and the developing world more than double of the entire developed world. The gap between population and mobiles in the population is around 1 billion. And now this chart tells you that that the world is still blue, meaning Symbian dominates, led by Nokia, despite all the hype of all the smarter devices like iPhone and Android. So where's the next billion handsets going to come from? This is the ratio of mobile people to mobile, and you can see that the ratios are in Europe, CIS, and America are pretty even. It's Africa, Asia Pacific, and the Middle East where the growth is going to come from. Before I get into who's going to lead the growth, I just want to get into this who has a smart enough phone for market research, because all the talk seems to be about smart and feature phones or dumb phones. This is the latest figures for 2011, and you can see that if you take away North America and Europe, the rest of the developing world has more than 80% non-smartphones. And if we get into the handsets and manufacturers themselves, you see that the purple and the red is what the smartphones are, and the rest are the feature phones. And despite everything, Nokia is still #1, and Apple, the darling of the aspirational handset, just has a 5% market share. This is just looking at the evolution of smartphones, because actually when you look at the definition of smartphones, there doesn't seem to be any coherent one. It has always been evolving. If you look at the pre-2005, PDAs led by HP and Palm, mainly used for B2B, they were considered smartphones. And then up to 2005, other than those, if a phone just had a color screen, it was sufficient for it to be labeled a smartphone. Then if you move to 2005 to 2007, phones with cameras were considered smartphones. And then 7 to 9, it moved to the business phones led by BlackBerry. And then you come to the modern era where the touch screens led by the iPhone really made an impact, and apps were introduced into the market. And currently we are seeing that you have the Android revolution and Nokia and Windows Mobile having an alliance. Basically, what we see is that there's going to be a consolidation, but the dance between the main platforms is going to continue. There isn't going to be a single dominant force like we have in the PC. Just to run through these definitions quickly for you. As per Wikipedia, a smartphone is a mobile phone built on a mobile computing platform, more advanced computing ability and connectivity than a feature phone. A feature phone is a mobile phone which at the time of manufacture considered to be a smartphone, but nonetheless has additional functions and above standard mobile services. Now these are both incomplete. This is another definition which we had come out with, which basically says for research to get the best out of mobiles, the smart enough phone approach is a much better way to look at it. If we want to reach our target audience, we should go out and reach them, irrespective of the phone they use. The debate about penetration of mobile phones has all but died out. Now it's about how to target these consumers. A better way of looking at mobile is the utility of it. And the utility of mobile is going to be largely driven by video. And we believe that if a phone has more video capability, it should be considered a smart enough phone. Okay. Despite all the emerging markets, like Russia, South America, then you have Africa and Eastern Europe. At the end of the day, all of them put together don't even add up to be half of the Asia Pacific emerging markets. So if you had to lay your bets, it would be if you didn't have the resources and you had to divide your time, this is the place you should focus on. This chart shows you how large that opportunity is, and then you can see that only around 67% kind of penetration among its population, and already with such a large base, that's a huge gap. And of them, two countries, India and China alone, are around 60% of that. You can see of the 47 countries in APAC region, 3 countries alone, Indonesia, India and China, account for 68% of all handsets. However, it's not so clear the distinction between the developed and developing markets. If you look at Shanghai and Australia, Shanghai, one city, is larger than Australia in terms of handset population, matches in mobile penetration, and you can see smartphone penetration is more in Shanghai than Australia. And then you come to the entire region. If you look at the country, then obviously all those marked in red are the developed countries in the APAC region, and their penetration is much higher. And as you go the other countries, it's much less. It's the same story. It's all red when it comes to 3G, and 3G has not really got full coverage in the developing world. Again, if there's a high percentage of data usage in the network, then they're developed. Again, data revenues, you can see that while this chart clearly tells you that the developed countries in Asia Pacific, like Japan and Korea, they are the #1 countries as far as the technology of mobile goes. And though data revenues now are much higher as a percentage in Western Europe, the networks are not as advanced in many ways as the Korean and Japanese markets, who pioneered a lot of the stuff that we use today. This is a very interesting chart. You can see that in the developed world, all on the right, marked in red, they have a high percentage of post-paid plans, while in the developing world, it is just the opposite. And this goes everywhere where development is rapid or emerging, like Africa, South America. 80+% of all connections are prepaid. And regulation is also high. It's highly regulated. It's not easy to understand the taxation and function in many of these. So effectively, to calculate the telecom quotient, you have the mobile quotient, which is infrastructure; business quotient, that's the business environment. You have the regulatory and infrastructure quotient, and of course the demographic quotient. By virtue of that, if we look at today, you have the developed Asia Pacific, mainly Japan and Korea, right at the top, almost a perfect score, followed by Western Europe, North America, Eastern Europe, South America, and then you have North Africa and the Middle East, and the rest of Asia Pacific, and last Africa. So everyone's targeting the bottom half of the pyramid, where the growth is the most and the distance is the largest to cover. So from a market research standpoint, the challenges that we have are no different. Largely, there are no standards. There are no norms. Infrastructure is poor. There's too much of diversity. Literacy across, be it at the supplier end, clients end, and anyone in between. And finally, another thing that hampers us a lot is cost sensitivity of the inputs that we require. Effectively, we're saying that nobody said going after the bottom half of the pyramid was going to be easy. Finally, I'm going to leave you with a few thoughts on what is new out there. Okay, this is just something shopper and packaging research does a lot of work online, and earlier it wasn't so easy to have the same kind of interaction in the mobile. But now with touch screens, we can actually do that. So consumers can select a package that they like, and then we know which packages they have picked first and why they picked it. So these are some of the things that we can do now in mobile. Now, if you look at this, these are images of products which you can rotate 360 degrees, and you can manipulate them with your fingers in very similar to how you would actually play with a product when you're buying it. And lastly, this is in again screens of a ad test that we do across the world, and it works even in some of the simplest of handsets, which are only available in, say, Africa, where they still use handsets which most of the world has stopped using for a couple of years. And this was a case where we had a 30-second ad followed by a lot of the diagnostic questions, and it was very well received. And this is another ad testing and ad concept evaluation is another new area. So these are the three areas that I wanted to share with you. And the best part about mobile is that it's constantly changing. And for those who enjoy change and excited about innovation, there's no better place than mobile to be in at these times. Thank you.